There you go.
Hey traders, Cousin Vinny coming to you on August the 10th, Sunday, with a pocket pivot scan, a scan that looks for unusual volume, as well as the Bollinger Band scan for the weekend. The pocket pivot scan looks for unusual volume that surpasses the previous 10 days trading volume. Typically, what that usually tells you, depending on where that occurs, as well as some of the other things that we look for, like we see here on Airlease Corp AL, we have a Kirby band that prices are touching. We have a descending wedge pattern which found support down at the lower Bollinger Band as well as the 200 period moving average, and we have a breakout on Friday. So we'll be looking for follow through given this interest and surge in volume. Big lots, this shows up on both the pocket pivot scan as well as the Bollinger Band scan, with a nice horizontal pattern, slightly descending wedge that we broke out of on Friday. And again, the volume, though it's hard to see because of this large bar here, is skewing the volume, with a MACD cross, RSI also moving higher. Now the key to some of these trades on what we may decide to take is what sectors are showing the most favorable setup. We'll also keep in mind our money management and position sizing when we take a trade, already knowing ahead of time what our risk reward is, what our targets are, and what our stops will be prior to actually entering a trade. BDSI trying to break back above this Kirby bar here. If it does, there will be no resistive volume per se, no overhead supply. Note the histogram is starting to point higher, and we have a nice pocket pivot as well as stochastics leading prices. Brookfield Property Partners LP looks like it wants to break out above this resistance level here. Now keep in mind that again we're going to be looking at sectors that are showing the most promise, and then we'll gear that with the names that we find in our scan. This is pretty much a broad-based group of names, so we're also thinking that with the put-call ratio breaking outside of the upper Bollinger Bands using a 65-day, we are positioning ourselves for a bottom either on Monday or very shortly thereafter, which we can trade against. Dana Holding, nice pattern. We have a Kirby bar here that we need to get back above. We do that, we could see 24.69 and a breakout above 24.82 in the cards possibly, with very little overhead supply. Nice pocket pivots and MACD histogram. We see higher lows in the histogram showing divergence. We are looking for a crossover to the upside. Foot Locker, we have calls in this position. We've had it for some time, since back in this area here. They expire in September, so we do have a possibility of a breakout. They are the 50s, I believe, September 50s. Note the Kirby bar here and prices moving higher on a lot of footwear stocks. You might want to check Crocs and several other names in addition to Foot Locker. Pocket pivots, MACD cross, everything looks pretty good. RSI is moving back up on Foot Locker. Gap, we had a gap on Friday. Note the 50 period moving average, prices are above. Bollinger Band squeezed briefly and then are expanding as prices move up into an area where there's very little overhead supply. The Kirby tapered off, so nice triangle pattern. This looks like it could continue. At this point, though, I'd wait for a sideways pattern and possibly a flag in a narrow range for a trade on the gap, with a nice pocket pivot showing and MACD crossing to the upside. Lionsgate, This one's really done quite well for itself over the last several years. In the entertainment business, a break above Bollinger Bands were squeezing, a break above that trend line, the pocket pivot. We had 3 million shares traded on Friday, and we're making it back above this Kirby level where we have very little overhead supply. Remember to check your earnings. We still have earnings this week. Cheetah Mobile, I believe, reports Monday before the open, as well as a number of other stocks that we've been following over the last week. LyondellBasell, LYB, Specialty Chemicals. I want to also keep an eye on Huntsman. That one's in the Bollinger Band scan that we proofed earlier, as well as Dow Chemical. Note the short percentage isn't that high on these names. Magna International, they're in the car supplier business. They also trade on the New York Stock Exchange under MGA. Let's take a look at that. Canadian-based company, same pattern obviously. 50-period moving average, Bollinger Bands expanding. This one should continue to move higher. I imagine that some of the car companies are moving off of those lows, getting back above the 50 on Ford. I would expect this one to be higher by year end. Tesla was looking good, broke above these highs here. Flagging out now with a Kirby band. If we make a move above that, we could have the nice cup and build a handle here. We could see higher prices on Tesla. I'm expecting that to be the case with our favorite CEO forecasting that they'll be making more cars this year and next, as well as entering the SUV market if you've been paying attention to the news. So that's pretty good for Tesla as well as Magna International. Again, it's a Canadian-based company. Nice short descending pattern there, breaking above the Kirby. No overhead supply. Looking really good on this name. Mediavation, MDVN. Note prices are above the Kirby. Little overhead supply here. We had a nice cup pattern and then an inverted head and shoulders where we came down, broke down below this low. Then the next few days we accumulated sideways along the 50-period moving average, and now we're breaking higher. We tried to test, moved outside the upper Bollinger Bands, and now I'm expecting some consolidation here before we break higher. Note the Kirby, note the pocket pivot, stochastics turning, and MACD. Nordstrom added again, nice sideways pattern over the last couple of months. Look like we're trying to break out here. We have a pocket pivot and stochastics turning back up with MACD looking like it wants to turn as well. Northern Oil and Gas, NOG. I keep an eye on a lot of the fracking names as well as names like Northern Oil and Gas that are putting in nice patterns. NOG here is above the Kirby, and we're breaking above a nice pattern here, descending continuation pattern. 50-period moving average is the green line, and Bollinger Bands are expanding. Nice pocket pivot and MACD cross probably this week. RSI is back above 50. NVIDIA, nice sideways pattern for the most part, and a break higher. We're trading HIMX. If you were paying attention, I was posting quite a few tweets just to mess with the shorts. Really like this pattern, along with some of the other specialty semiconductor companies that deal with displays, plasma screens, and so forth, drivers. Nice ascending pattern here, a base, clearly going to break above the Kirby. So I'm expecting this name to continue to move higher as well as NVIDIA. Note that we came down to the 200-period moving average. Prices are back above the Kirby, and we are looking pretty good with this pocket pivot, MACD cross, and stochastics both showing that we could see further upside very soon. NVIDIA was pretty well shorted, I believe. Yeah, 8% of 528 million shares float, so that's around 48 million shares. Looks like we covered a little bit on Friday. Portland General Electric, can see we came down almost to the 200 period moving average. We have the Kirby level to deal with and a pocket pivot. Sonic noted that every time we pulled down to the 200 period moving average and we had pocket pivots, that the stock started to move higher. So we're seeing an ascending pattern here, but Sonic for some reason is doing quite well in the restaurant business. Okay, so let's take a look at the Bollinger Band scan. Big Lots, this was on the pocket pivot scan as well, remember, moving higher. We covered that. Conway, nice descending pattern. Remember, descending patterns like wedges and channels are continuation patterns after a nice move off of these February lows. Conway is looking good in the shipping business, and we should see a breakout. Exact Sciences Corp, nice descending pattern above the Kirby level. This one looks really good coming into the week. Also make sure you check earnings on these names. 31% short, so that could be some really nice fuel for a move higher. About 24 million shares, and looks like we covered only 650,000 shares last week on Friday. So with MACD crossing to the upside and stochastics leading, we could see a short covering squeeze on EXAS. Let's take a look, make sure that earnings. So we're trading post earnings on EXAS with 31% short, or about 24 million shares plus or minus. If you're going to trade it, position yourself using smart money management rules as well as position sizing, risk reward targets. I would be taking the depth of the pattern. GTAT Advanced Technologies in a sideways pattern. We have the Kirby level to deal with, but Bollinger Bands are squeezing. And we do see recent volume taking over. Keep an eye on earnings here. Huntsman, we talked about previously, descending pattern. The 50 period moving average is right here, and we're right at the 20 with an upsloping. Looks like we might be flattening out on the 200 period. But Bollinger Bands do look good, and MACD looks like it wants to cross to the upside. Airlines doing well. So JetBlue is looking about the best. Alaska Airlines was down at the 200 period moving average, looked like it wanted to turn. So keep an eye on all these airline stocks. There may be some trades there, long and short. Gold miners, still looking good, moving sideways in a descending pattern. Have yet to break out on GDX. Newmont Mining, another precious metals company, looks like it's trying to break above these levels here. Bollinger Bands are expanding. We covered this name a few weeks back. If you remember, if you managed to hang in there and not get taken out, congratulations. Restoration Hardware, along with Leggett and Platt, looking pretty good in the home furnishings and hardware business. Descending wedge pattern right at that 50 period moving average. Should continue to move higher if we see a breakout with stochastics leading, MACD turning. Royal Gold, this is one of the better names that we pointed out back when we covered miners showing a change of trend. Royal Gold continues to move sideways and looks like it's trying to break out of a ascending triangle pattern after the shallow cut pattern, double bottom, and a move higher. We consolidated along the 20 period moving average, and the 50 period is quickly turning and moving to the upside. So we have a nice volume here. MACD is trying to cross, RSI is moving higher, and stochastics is leading. And metals and minings, which pretty much looks like GDX. United Dominion Realty Trust with TNX moving off of the upper trend line and that descending pattern that we pointed out numerous times last week and a week before. This pattern should continue to move higher. US Silica, big player in the fracking area. PE is kind of high, so I'd probably be waiting for a pullback on this name, but it did show up on the scan, so we will comment on it. And here's your TNX chart, which you can see if you follow a box trade setup. This is a short as the yield continues to move lower as it keeps testing this zone between the 10 period and the 30 period moving averages as this rolls over and continues to move lower. The industry sector of trusts and REITs, DLR, looks good with a flag. Nice pattern here, moving sideways, and note Bollinger Bands are starting to squeeze, so we're waiting on that one. Stochastic says recycling, so this could be setting up in the very near future as we move sideways and Bollinger Bands continue to squeeze. Okay, looks pretty good. So this is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com with a look at the week ahead, several scans, the Bollinger Band squeeze, TTM, the pocket pivot scan looking for unusual volume, and the REITs. Take care, I hope this helps, and we'll talk to you on Monday.